Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you. Hope everybody's having a fine Sunday. It is Sunday, right? Yeah, it's Sunday. Let's see who's in here. Limey, Cherry, both one and the same. Blue Moon, uh, Safari Dream, Kelsey 206, Band-Aid of Memories, Margot, Haka Party of Six, Jilly Bean, Phil DR. I don't know if that's Phil Doctor or what. I don't know, dude. Um, we are going to go into some stuff today. This is somebody I've had my eye on. I happened to catch this documentary um, on Hulu, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Um, now, this is not somebody that I take too seriously. It's really funny to me because I there are certain things about her. It's for me, it's just very easy to see right through her. Um, and and I don't hold on one second. Panda, what's wrong? What's wrong? Come here, sit down. Everybody missed you. Get up there, sit down. Come on. Well, go on upstairs if you want. Sorry. Or she senses a ghost down here. I don't know. I don't know. This studio is built in my new basement, um and this house is 102 years old. So it's yeah. If ghosts exist, there's some in this house, or at least one. Like, there's just no way there's not. That's if they exist. I'm still skeptical. Go upstairs. I don't know what she wants. I think she wants me to go up to the room. She is, ever since we moved, Panda has been just like glued to me. I don't know what it is, but she has just been glued to me. She's, I mean, I go in my room, I shut the door, she's scratching at my door. She wants in. Um, and so, yeah, I don't know if she like, I don't know what her problem is right now. Um, yeah, right, Bex? Maybe. I mean, she's gonna need to because I'm going on with this. Um, but yeah, so I watched this documentary series, mini series, 4 episodes. It's not long. Each episode's an hour. And it's about Teal Swan. Um, and she is an influencer, um, to say the least. She has millions of views, over I think 55 million views on her YouTube channel. Um, she is an author, a published author, and she believes that there is no one above her. She has all the answers. This is something that she seems to genuinely believe, and so uh, it's it's fascinating to me. I'm gonna get into a little history here. Um, and She was born Mary Teal Bosworth, uh, June 16th, 1984. Um, she was born in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Uh, she uh, she's been openly criticized by The Guardian, BBC, um, and she basically prides herself on how to manage mental health issues. which I find fascinating. And I'm going to get into that stuff too. This is stuff that I've always been very, very candid about. But her and I have a very almost opposite approach on how we look at these things. Um, and so people have made many documentaries and podcasts about her. Um, and she's been described, she's described interactions with mental health profession in childhood. She says that her mother drug her to see every therapist that she could think of. Sorry about that. And received every single diagnostic. So she was diagnosed schizophrenic. She was diagnosed bipolar, borderline, everything, according to what I'm reading here. And she also reports an admission to a psychiatric ward after her first suicide attempt at age 17. Um, she has stated in numerous interviews that she was abused, raped, and psychologically tortured from the age of 6 onwards by a family friend. In the documentary, she talks about this. She says it's basically like a 60-year-old man who says that her parents couldn't handle her. So this 60-year-old man offered to take her in, and apparently he tortured and essayed her a lot. And I can't even imagine what that's like. So there was an interview that was broadcast of KIVI TV in Idaho, and it focused on the statements that she had been subjected to ritualistic abuse by a satanic cult for over a decade. With the object of eliminating her extrasensory abilities. So what she's saying here is basically there was a satanic cult that tortured her because they feared her extrasensory, her ESP, uh, and her psychic abilities, basically, because she does seem to believe that she can read minds. She believes that she can control minds more or less. Um, she senses everything basically. So it says here that she received therapy from Barbara Snow, which was a figure that was highly involved in the satanic panic. So, um, in 2011, she released the book "The Sculptor in the Sky," and then she started her YouTube channel in the summer of 2011. And apparently, she started her YouTube channel with basically the story goes that she had this boyfriend named Blake, and she ran to him, and he just unconditionally loved her, supposedly. And this was just after her abuse, and he was just the right person at the right time to where what she needed um, for emotional support. And um, he apparently, according to him, they started this YouTube channel together. It was his idea to say, I think it was something like Ask Teal or something to that effect. And then they just went on and went on, and it grew from there. Um, in 2011, in the summer, she held her first event, a synchronization workshop, uh, at the Salt Lake City Recital Hall, speaking to about 20 people. In 2015, Swan was mentioned in a post by Cleveland area columnist Regina Brett. Her teaching methods sometimes guide participants to envision their own deaths, occasionally by suicide. Now, this is where it gets real controversial. In 2019, Lebo Dysko from BBC cited Swan's viewpoint on suicide. Uh, in the video, Swan urges those who are feeling suicidal to seek medical help, but goes on to say that in her experience, for some people, this may not help long term. She instead suggests that suicide be seen as our safety net or our reset button that's always available to us. She argues that viewing it in this way enables people to set the idea aside and instead concrete concentrate sorry about that, concentrate on what they can do to make themselves feel better in the present. um and she wrote her first novel in October 2020, The Hunger of the Pine. So I rewatched episode 1 of The Deep End, which is the documentary on Hulu that's about her. And basically, what it covers is it kind of gives a history. She's interviewed pretty extensively. She goes into her past a lot, and she really opens herself up, and I commend her for that. Uh, and but also, you know, it also focuses on the people around her. And what she does is she will invite certain people, certain followers, just a handful really, for a retreat. And yeah, Huck, that's true also. Yes. She invites everyone for a retreat. And as I'm watching episode 1, again, there's something very, very interesting that takes place. Because right there, as far as I'm concerned, you can see right through her insecurities. Um, you can see right through. I mean, she is an angry, angry person. You know how we talk about BHB and we talk about people like this that we can see right through. Like you can see it in their eyes. You can see the anger. Um, so she's definitely got scars, what they are, I mean, I'm in no position to challenge or try to say that she's not being truthful in the things that she says has happened to her. That's her life. Those are her accounts. I'm nobody to challenge them. All I know is the person that I see. That's all I'm going to comment on as far as what I believe. And her behavior is quite telling when it comes to this. Her behavior is quite telling because I there's this man who challenges her. Basically, they're sitting around in a group setting, and he's like, "Well, who is it that you look up to?" Right? Which is a perfectly valid question, And really, what's really insane is she doesn't even she gets offended that she's even questioned this. She gets offended, like, how dare you even think that there's anybody above me, is how she came off. It was really, really weird. And this poor guy, he feels intimidated by her. Like the vibe that I get from her in that setting when she's focusing on people that she claims are challenging her or are being combative towards her, when they simply ask her a challenging question. But to me, a leader, right? And to me, I mean, to most of us, I would think, um, excuse me, a leader has the personal tendency, I would think, the natural instinct, a natural born leader is somebody who would be inspired to welcome a challenging question, not berate somebody for having the audacity to ask a challenging question. And she got extremely defensive. She's like, okay, like right away, you could see her there's like a sense of excitement that comes over her. There's a sense of excitement that comes over her when she senses, okay, ooh, I get to make an example of somebody in the group, basically, is like the vibe that I got of the positive feeling that she got out of it. But you could see her getting angry very, very clearly. And she's like, well, what if she's like, that's like, she's straight up said this. She says, that's like if I ask the Dalai Lama who he looks up to, who is completely and totally enlightened, supposedly. That's it. Like if I ask him who he looks up to. Like she said this out loud in front of this whole group. And the vibe, and I could feel it, even though I wasn't actually in the room, I could feel the vibe in that room that was just like, I am absolutely afraid of this woman. And I'm afraid of, mostly what I got out of that was people were afraid to find out that she wasn't the person that they made her out to be. One woman even says she's like Jesus. At the beginning of this documentary, she basically compares her to Jesus and says, I don't understand why people don't see her this way. More people aren't, looking at her as if she is the one, I mean, and that's disturbing. That's very disturbing when it's somebody who clearly has their own insecurities. Because I don't think for a second that this woman has found an actual genuine working way to manage her demons. I do not believe this at all. I think that she's clearly a very angry person. And what she does is she basically puts out videos that are basically word salad, and she never mentions a solution. She'll basically try to dazzle you, basically saying that, explaining, okay, here's a scenario, and this is how I'm going to prove to you how well I understand that scenario. But she'll never say, this is how you should deal with it, right? Which I find really, really interesting. And she claims to have all the answers, yet she never gives any, which I find really, really funny. Is my sound okay? Because Kelly's in the chat saying that she can't hear me. So now we're going to go over. Now, episode 1 is really telling. And I find it very telling that she would feel the need to defend herself, right? Like whenever somebody makes a critical video, right, on YouTube, because you just type in the search, the Glarer, right? And you're going to find some real critical videos of me, but I'm not going to go live every single time that happens and start going, this is what, okay, give me my chance to defend myself. Like there's Bitch Boy who makes, videos about me. He hasn't in a while, but it just was to a point to where I was like, nobody gives a shit what he's saying anyway, but but even still, like if you totally believe in yourself and you're so confident that you are the one enlightened one and you have all the answers, you know how to beat pain. What you tell people and what you sell is that you are capable, you have the cure for pain. How you deal with trauma is to face your trauma and then you work on getting over it. That's actually something I agree with. I just don't agree with her methods in dealing with them. I just don't see them fundamentally working. But let's go over this. So this is basically her response to episode 1.
So what everyone wants to know today is, what do I...
So this is just to give you guys a rundown. This is once episode 1 aired, because they aired every week. They didn't put them to where you could just binge them right away. You had to wait another week for the next episode, and then so on and so forth for a month. And so episode 1 airs, and then she makes this video. Now, this is going to be a reaction for me because I have yet to see this myself. I just find it fascinating that she felt the need to put out a video about it.
What do I think about the first episode of the Deep End series on Hulu? So here I am, unedited, and I'm going to tell you what I think so far. First, I want you to remember that you're watching a TV show that was done about me, that I did not get any payment for, and that I have no control over. And one of the most vulnerable and nerve-wracking things in the world is watching someone else's portrayal of you and your life.
Now, that's just not
First,
true.
Let's start with the positive.
Can perspective be somewhat manipulated when filming a documentary? Absolutely. I accuse Michael Moore of doing that with all of his documentaries. I think his documentaries are absolutely and totally biased, as a matter of fact. But what I saw was this person This is the same thing as if I review a YouTube creator. This is all I'm doing right now is reviewing another YouTube creator. Is all I'm doing. So so this is her basically. I think she's actually very pretty, Phil Doctor. I'm gonna call you Phil Doctor. Um, I think she's actually very pretty. But she's got that look, man. She's got that look.
Visually, it's beautiful, high quality, and cinematic. I loved the positive testimonials from fans, supporters, and people
Of
who
course you did.
understand me and my vision
Of
for
course
the
you did.
change that is needed in this world. This shows that what I am doing has really had a positive and deep impact on so many people. And that means everything to me. It is what
Now
keeps
that's debatable. Is it a positive impact? That's debatable.
me going every day. This episode made it very clear that I am about the truth. I think viewers will get a very clear idea that myself, as well as those who follow my material, are about very deep, raw, real, honest stuff. Quite
Okay.
frankly, a lot of you are sick of the pretense and are
Okay.
looking for something very real. It is clear that I'm not just going to tell someone something that makes them feel good when it is clear that doing so will not help them to recognize.
And I agree with that. I won't do that either. I will not blow sunshine up your ass just to be nice. If you're sitting here coming to me about something and you expect my opinion, I'm going to be honest with you about it. Now, if you're in the right, then I will tell you that you're in the right. But if you are lacking a certain amount of self-awareness, I'm going to try to shine that self-awareness like a light into your eyes. So I get where she's coming from with that. I can relate to that.
Recognize and break free from destructive patterns. And for people who are not ready for that kind of reality check, deep dive, or change themselves yet, they can clearly know it's not for them yet. I am very happy about the scene where I'm explaining the difference
See,
between.
now that's another problem that I have. She also seems to, she has this whole attitude, like she has this whole attitude of, if you don't take in what I'm saying, right? If you're not taking in what I'm saying, and taking it as gospel, basically, well, then you're not ready to be fixed. You're not finding what's needed deep inside you to fix yourself. You're not bringing the tools. You're not ready for what I have to say. That's basically, so it's like my way or the highway.
Healing and just feeling better. In this segment, I also got to present to the world the idea that regarding mental health, we need to start asking what happened to you instead of what is wrong with you.
Now, not instead of, but it makes sense to me. Now, I'm not a mental health professional, but then again, neither is she. So I don't have a problem countering, uh, in theory, what she's saying in that sense. She's saying instead of what's wrong with you, focus on what happened to you. I think you have to, at least for me, what works for me is focusing on what happened to me, as well as what I could have done to change things, not regret. I'm not talking about regret, people. I'm talking about just looking at things and learning from certain things that I could have done better and trying to apply them moving forward. I think that's the most logical, positive way of learning from something, and improving yourself. So to say instead of what's wrong with you, no, you have to look in the mirror, find out if there is anything wrong with you. If your behavior is affecting people in a negative way, you need to be aware of it. That's your responsibility as a human being, in my opinion. So whatever you need to do, like for me, it's the glare. It's, you know, it's that acronym. For me, that's what works for me. I'm not telling anybody else to do it. That's just for me. Okay? And I do my best to follow it. But if you look at it, it's a lot of the opposite of what she's saying, because these things What they do is they empower me. They empower me to where I am in control of my emotions and not my trauma, not my demons. I'm in control. The exercising these things in this acronym helps me manage these things and helps me be in control of my own emotions. And I take pride in that. And I slip up. I'm not perfect with it. You know what I'm saying? And you know what? I encourage anybody to try it. And if it works for you, I sure hope so. But I'm not telling you that that's what you need to do. Whatever you need to do to manage yourself. But the thing is it's never going to happen without practicing awareness and accountability. I promise you that. It's never going to happen. So those things are absolutely necessary, in my personal opinion. There's no getting around it.
Sometimes a good idea has to come from someone on the outside. In this case, someone on the outside of the traditional mental health field. I am trying to create positive change in the mental health field. And this episode
See, I would feel more comfortable with that. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that if she was a mental health professional who said, you know what, I'm aware of all I'm educated in mental health. I'm educated in that sense, and I have a degree. I earned a degree. But now that I have learned and mastered that side of mental health, it's time to try alternatives. See, I would respect that. I would be all for that. But this is somebody who clearly is not over her own trauma, because you could see the anger in her face. You can tell that she does not manage it still very well by the way that she treats the other people in her life. It's very clear. But since they put up with it, that's her justification.
Played that. I loved the part where one of my trainees was making a call saying how she's going to come home a different person and how she wants this to be her life's work. It meant so much to me that she found the connection she has been looking for in my work, especially, and about how positive this work can be. Plus, it's always fun to see those transformative private conversations that I don't see when I'm holding a.
But what's interesting, you got to keep in mind, people, what's very interesting, she's been diagnosed with all of these different personality disorders. You see what I'm saying? So when you suspect it, like when you see it in her behavior, on top of the fact that she has been diagnosed with these things, that should be enough. In my personal opinion, that should be all you need to know. Now, I'm not saying that that makes her not credible. I'm saying that her behavior reflects this, and the behavior makes her not credible. That's personally my opinion, my observation.
Thought that the segment where I have the audience raise their hands to give the person on the stage the awareness of how many people are really not okay in their lives was quite powerful. It makes
I think she just likes the crowd. I mean, she had hundreds of people there. And there was even a dude with a tattoo of her on his arm. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to me. Like, I'm of the personal belief that she encourages this. Instead of empowering people to believe in themselves, it's believe in me. I'm the one with the answers. So she will vaguely let you know that she understands your problems, but she'll never actually give you the solution. She'll bait you and reel in a little slower and slower and slower and just keep you on the hook, you know? So you'll keep buying her books. So you'll keep logging onto her channel. Because if she has the answers, I mean, what are the answers? The answers are literally, in a literal sense, the cure, right? If I have all the answers to how to beat life, and then I expose those answers, well, then I don't have anything anymore, right? It's like AIDS, or cancer, right? Now, this is just my tinfoil hat on or whatever, but some could argue, validly could argue, that the reason why there's no cure for cancer or no actual cure for AIDS is because there's no money in the cure. Once you sell the cure, that's it. People are cured. That's it. You wipe the planet of it, right? There's nothing more to sell. But if you keep people on a treatment, then you're always going to make money, right? So what she does is she sells treatment. Now, I use that term loosely because I don't think that she's qualified to treat anyone until she treats herself and faces herself and understands the place where all of this is coming from, because it's not coming from a place of love. I promise you that. There's nothing about her behavior that indicates that anything that what she has been doing or that I saw with my eyes comes from a place of love.
People see that they aren't alone. But unfortunately, there are some things I want to clarify.
Here we go.
After seeing this first episode. This is a documentary series, and all documentaries start with lots of video. I mean hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Right.
And that collective footage is then edited down to tell a story.
True.
Some things are included, but a lot always gets cut out. Watching this episode helped me realize something about my work. If literally anything, positive or negative, is taken out of context, and I mean a very long context, it can no longer be properly or fully understood. All media productions, including documentaries, are a series of sound bites, but sound bites just don't work to accurately portray what I am doing. I wish they did. It would make my life a whole lot easier.
Let's so right here we got an excuse. Because she's claiming this thing is made up of a bunch of sound bites. No, like, I saw your lips moving. I saw you saying these things to people who came out for a retreat that they probably paid for. They probably paid a lot of money for just to be in your company. So don't tell me that it was just made up of a bunch of sound bites, because it was not. I saw it with my own eyes.
These subjects are just too nuanced and too...
And I'm very critical when it comes to movies and things of that nature. I'm very, very critical. So if I saw something and I felt it was just plain bias, then I'd be like, that's not really fair. You know what I mean? But what I saw was someone taking advantage of everyone around her and bullying them emotionally. I saw a bully. So I'm just saying.
Complex to simplify in this way. For example, in one of the clips, there was a scene from a workshop where I was talking to a mom with a baby who wanted to go back to work. At one point in that conversation, I said, "You can do no better for your daughter than to give her an example of what a woman in her passion looks like." This makes it sound like I think it is the right answer for all mothers to work. I don't feel this way. I was helping this particular woman to release her resistance to it being right for her specifically to go back to work, rather than to force herself to do something out of a sense of obligation or society's current estimation of moral rightness. Moms choosing to work or not when they are raising children, and the impact that has on their children either way, is not a simple subject with simple answers. It is an incredibly complex one, especially in today's society.
Yeah.
Honestly,
we know that.
I was watching the episode with my team,
but
at one point I pointed to the TV and said...
But of course she has the answers for everybody. You know what I mean? So she's kind of contradicting herself here. Like, don't sit here and make the excuse that it's very complex and you don't have all the answers when you claim your whole thing is that you are the one with the answers.
Who is that person? I don't like her very much. Not because I was watching the way I really am and don't like what I see.
No, that's
but because
why.
of the way this particular
I'm calling
episode
you
is
out on
edited.
that.
The Teal Swan they created in this episode makes me come across very hard, harsh, cold, dismissive, unworkable, domineering, competitive, and angry.
Yeah.
It also made me come across like a person with a superiority complex who is jealous, likes to be the queen bee, and who especially has no room in her life for any other women.
Yep.
This episode did not show my softness, receptivity, workability, or humility. It didn't show the reality of my multifaceted personality. I've received so many beautiful notes today.
See, I don't
from the people.
See, that's the thing. Let me stop you right there, Teal. That's the thing is I don't think that somebody who could be that cold, that egotistical, that need to be such a queen bee, anybody that can do that, I don't think is capable of being soft and sweet, genuinely. There's too much anger that is putting you on a very permanent, on edge, on the defense at all times, on your toes at all times to be sweet. There's no room for you to be sweet with all that anger and be soft and be empathetic. There's no room for you to do that with all that anger.
Who know the real me, shocked that I was portrayed in this way. I feel misunderstood. That's part of why I wanted to make this video.
Now understand, like,
and why I've also posted a full unedited video from one.
Wouldn't an enlightened person, guys, wouldn't an enlightened person not worry about how they're portrayed? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, I mean, I'm not enlightened, but I have enough, you know, I have enough self-respect. I have enough, confidence to where I'm just going to be like, I'm subject to criticism. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is. If I come on here and I make myself public, I'm perfectly subject to any criticism. Now, I won't sit around and be accused of horrible things that I never did. That's a different story. But when it comes to my content and what I'm talking about up here, that's the thing is I'm subject to your opinions, man. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. That's the risk I take by being public, going on camera, talking and spilling out my guts. That's the risk I take. You see what I'm saying? Like, I went into this understanding that I didn't go, oh my God, everybody's going to worship me. And then all of a sudden I'm shocked when I'm portrayed and I'm shown video footage of me being a cold, mean, queen bee type person. Yeah, Margot, I agree. She absolutely lacks a lot of self-awareness. Because she's shocked. She's like, how? Wait a minute. That's not me. But it is you because you're looking at yourself behaving in this manner. Because if you didn't worry about that, you wouldn't be up here defending it. You wouldn't be up here feeling the need to defend yourself. It wouldn't be necessary. So,
one of my workshops, so you can see for yourself how I interact with people in need of my help. It's on YouTube and on my website. Speaking of editing, there was a scene where I was being challenged at one of my retreats by an attendee who was concerned that I have no one that I look up to. The reality is that this interaction was crazy long.
Remember I was talking about this?
The entire conversation was reduced to several carefully selected cuts.
Of course it was.
In my opinion, make me look like I have no tolerance for being questioned, which just isn't true. I invite questioning.
Okay. No, you didn't. You did not. If you watch that type of one, if you've watched at least episode 1 of The Deep End, I know Cherry has. And I know Limey the Squirrel has too. I know what I saw. I know what I saw and I know what I heard her say. And she was basically saying, I don't have any patience for anybody who's going to challenge me. She said straight up, this is the analogy that she used. After she used the Dalai Lama analogy, which I found unbelievably egotistical, comparing yourself to the Dalai Lama, unbelievable, right? But on top of that, she says, this is like if I take every person in the world, right? And I put every single person in the world together, and the fastest person alive, I ask them who is faster than them. That's what she said. in response to this man saying, who do you look up to? Who do you respect? Who do you want to take after and follow the example of? She doesn't say Jesus. She doesn't say anything. She's just basically paints herself to be that person. She says, if I took everybody in the world and then I took the fastest runner and I said, who do all these people do you look up to? Or who do you think can beat you in a race? But they're already the fastest runner, the fastest person. So, I mean, don't sit here and act like you were not offended by being questioned at all. You totally said in every possible way short of using the words, how dare you challenge and question me? Short of actually using those words is how you basically came off to that guy.
The way this segment was cut makes me come across like an aggressive, egotistical megalomaniac, which I'm not. And unfortunately, because these cuts were removed from their full context, you didn't get to see the part where I said what I always say, that once your awareness gets to a certain point, the need for one specific teacher is gone because you understand that you can learn from anything, everyone, and every single thing you come into contact with
nice
in
save.
The world.
Bullshit.
Thus, everything and everyone becomes your teacher. Unfortunately, my haters will love how this scene is cut. Another example of being taken out of context, when I was talking about not wanting to ever get into the spiritual field. What I actually said is that I never wanted to get into it because spirituality hurt me so much as a child. It being
if she wasn't being combative to that guy, right? Why didn't she just give an example? You know? I mean, I could tell you people that I look up to right now. You know? I look up to Henry Rollins. You know what I'm saying? There's all kinds of different people that I admire, that I respect, that I learn from. Right? They're examples. Sure, like I agree with her in that sense, but why not just give examples? You didn't say that. You didn't say, well, who's the fastest person? You compared yourself to the fastest person alive. As far as thinking goes, as far as understanding the world, you made yourself out to be, you use the analogy, the fastest person. And there's nobody above you. Nobody. So yeah, I don't want to hear that. That's not a valid save. That contradicts what you were saying in the part that was cut the way that you didn't like it. Because you said those things. Nobody dubbed that in there. You said those things.
Reason that the man who abused me in childhood was able to gain access to me under the cloak of spirituality and my spiritual gifts. The audio that was clipped together with me saying I never wanted to get into this field of spirituality was taken from a separate conversation where I was talking about my frustrations with the spiritual field in general. This segment, along with the scene where my manager Matthias was talking about marketing strategies with our marketing team, suggested that I am against the spiritual field and am in fierce adversarial competition with many of my colleagues.
The difference between her,
the Dalai Lama,
the difference between her and literally every credible spiritual leader in all of history is the ones that made a true mark and still inspire people centuries, decades, whatever, after they're gone, is because they lived a humble life and they did not concern themselves with material possessions. This was Jesus. This was Gandhi. This was Buddha. The Dalai Lama, for instance. Any spiritual leader that she claims to compare herself to, any credible one throughout history, is not concerned with clicks and views. They are not concerned with book sales. That was the thing. There was this guy I used to listen to. He would come on PBS, right? And he would do these talks, he would have these seminars. Um, and I agreed with everything this guy was talking about. He was always talking about self-empowerment, and he was always talking about, I mean, he made perfect sense. This was, and his name was Dr. Wayne Dyer, right? I don't know. A lot of you might be familiar with Dr. Wayne Dyer, at least some of you put people that are closer to my age or maybe a little older. Dr. Wayne Dyer was somebody who made a lot of sense to me. But then there would be this break, right? There would be this break that would take place uh, in the middle of his speech. And then he'd be in the PBS studio with like a host or somebody like that. And then you would see he would be selling like a package of books and DVDs and all this stuff for an insanely outrageous price. I think it was like a $700 package for like 4 or 5 books and like a couple of DVDs. It was crazy. I would look at that and like, and as soon as, and I was a teenager when I would catch this stuff because I was fascinated. I went through a phase where I was going through a Pentecostal church. I was born again. I was, I wanted to be anointed in the Holy Spirit so bad, right? I wanted to be anointed with the Holy Ghost. I wanted to speak in tongues like everybody around me was doing. I was like, I want this. I want to be good enough for God to enter me and use me as a vessel. I want that more than anything. And I'm going to do everything that I can. And I lived as good of a Christian as I possibly could at 14 years old for about a year. For about a year. And then, and I've told this story before, right? Now, it wasn't like I was, touched inappropriately or anything of that nature. Nobody came on to me or anything like that. It wasn't like that. But I had a youth pastor, right? And I would always walk, my parents, my mom and my stepdad, they weren't very supportive of, hold on a second. Sorry about that. Um, so, and because my mom and my stepfather didn't really support this, they were just like, oh God, the kid being preachy, this kid. Because before this, I was a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? So they didn't take me seriously. And they tried to be supportive, and say whatever, but I couldn't get rides, to church. And it was a good 2-mile walk. And I would walk in the rain. I was not missing church. I went on the morning service and the evening service, both on Sunday and Wednesday to youth group. And I had a youth pastor. And what was cool is I could always get a ride home. Somebody would always give me a ride home. I'd walk to church, but then somebody would give me a ride home. And my youth pastor gives me a ride home and he's like, hey, what are you struggling with? He's a decent dude. You know what I mean? He's all right. And he was just like, and it was weird because they were really intense. Like in youth group one time, they showed us a videotape. They showed us like a documentary that was a Christian made documentary about how the devil, like Satan, is in all of these worldly things. And they talked about these record albums that if you played them backwards and then they played them and then they talked about how, when the rapture comes and what's going to happen. And it was just really, really just a whole big, massive scare tactic is what it seemed like looking back at it now. And honestly, I was fascinated. I wasn't scared of anything. I looked at it like I have God on my side. I'm not scared of anything. Right. So my youth pastor gives me a ride home one day and he's just like, what are you struggling with as far as sin lately the most? And my thing was porn, right? I mean, I was like full on puberty. You know what I mean? Full on puberty. And I was just horny all the time. Any kid that age is just constantly horny. And so I told them lust, these girls, man, you should see them in school and this and that. and he's just like, yeah, yeah, I get it, man, I get it, and and then he's like, you know what? He's like, I want you to go in the house because we were in front of my house. He's like, I want you to go in your house. You bring me every piece of pornography you got. Bring it to me, and I'm gonna throw it away. You guys can kind of sense where this story is going, yeah? Okay, so I do this. I trust my youth pastor. I trust Pastor Pete. That was his name, Pastor Pete. Trusted Pastor Pete, and I a couple months go by. I'm still going to church. I felt good about myself because I was really working on that. Um, and I go to this. He has this little kind of like pool party retreat type thing at his complex. Um, and it's a real nice time. We're barbecuing. It was a good time. We're playing volleyball. It was just a good time. It was real nice. And there was a girl that I liked and I would sit next to, and it was just real innocent, and because of the whole Christianity factor. So it was just real innocent. We didn't even kiss. We would just hold hands, just that sort of thing. And then I go to use the bathroom, but somebody's using it, and then Pastor Pete says, "Go use the one in my bedroom." And so I go use Pastor Pete's bedroom, and I'm walking by. I got to walk by his bed. I got to walk by his bookshelf. I got to walk by his movie collection. And I backtrack on my way to the bathroom. I'm like, what? Because the thing is the porn that I had was copied. So the labels I had them labeled a certain way with my handwriting. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew my porn when I saw it. You know what I'm saying? Like it was my porn, right? So I was like, what? And then after that, totally destroyed my faith. Totally. Um, I went full on atheist, started smoking weed, hanging around with bad people, and then so on and so forth. Things got bad. I ended up being homeless, living on the streets with my friends. And then, my friend Scott, who got murdered, which got me into the whole true crime thing. And this, um, but I was done with that. It wasn't till later on that I was just like, I got to make some changes. I got to start thinking, because I've always just been really, really fascinated with theology. I do believe in intelligent design. I do think that there's something out there. I do think that there's a force, for lack of a better term. What I believe God to be personally is literally everything. Everything is connected by energy. I believe that energy as a whole makes up what God is and beyond what we can understand. So that's what I personally believe in. That's where my faith comes in, because there's something bigger than me that I will never in this life be able to understand. And so my faith comes in to that understanding. So do I believe in God? Yes, I do. I just think that there's a scientific explanation for it that has not yet been to the point, and we may never will be able to explain. But yes, I believe that the things in the Bible that have taken place, I do believe that those things, there is scientific explanation for these certain things that took place in the Bible. The problem was they didn't make the scientific discoveries back then when the Bible was being written, of the things that we are aware of and understand now. So, I'm not saying that's all of it. I'm just saying that I believe that. That's what I choose to believe, and whatever you choose to believe, I absolutely respect. I do. I'm just saying that that's where I go with it, and I am fully in a live and let live type situation. I believe every single God is the same God, no matter what the faith. I believe that religion is geographical. And I think that that's the thing that people don't understand. Every culture has their own interpretation of God, because if you look at the fundamental things that all of these different religions teach, they're all basically the same principles. They're all the same idea of good and bad, right and wrong. So I think it's silly to be like, my God is this one and your God is the fake. That makes no sense to me. I think that they are all the same God, that every culture, it's a big world, you know what I mean? And every culture has created their own interpretation of who that God is. and who their prophets are. So that's personally what I believe in a nutshell. Now, as somebody who feels this way, this makes me humble. This makes me feel, man, I am nothing in comparison. Dude, you have a 400 trillion to 1 chance of being born and put on this earth. 400 trillion to 1, right? Your chances of winning the lottery, winning the Powerball, 40 billion to 1. That is a much smaller number in comparison. You understand what I'm saying? So 400 trillion to 1 chance of being born, what that does is that makes me humble. That makes me go, there's no way that I have this full-on understanding of the way that things are, because everything seems to be working and everything seems to have a function that is in need of something else. That is the connection between us all, right? But I think it's really important to focus mainly on what you as an individual can contribute to that environment. What can I contribute to that connection? Not what am I going to get out of the connection? What can I give to it? I believe that's the way to go, personally. It's just my belief. So to me, that's very contrary to what her idea of somebody who's enlightened is, because she believes that she has all the answers and she's, how dare you question my authority on this planet? I can feel what you're thinking and I can see your thoughts. I can tell that you are against me. And it's really funny because I think it's like in episode 3 or 4, right? Episode 3 or 4 of The Deep End, there's one part where she is she's talking to the wife of her ex-boyfriend who is stuck with her. Now, this dude, Blake, Balake, as I like to call him, let's face it, the dude has basically been a cuck this entire time. I mean, he's there and he's treated like the boyfriend that has to watch her be in relationship after relationship after relationship with different men. She's been married 5 times since she broke up with Blake, yet obligates him to be with her. It's very, very crazy, the emotional hold that she has over him. It's very, very manipulative. It's borderline abusive, in my personal opinion. And she had admittedly 15 relationships, roundabout 15 relationships since she broke up with Blake, yet Blake stayed with her all of that time, right? And was belittled anytime that he was in any way, shape, or form challenging to her. Always there when she was having one of her moments where she was angry and she needed somebody to take it out on. It was always him that is the person to take it out on. So, I don't see somebody being enlightened without being humbled. I think being humble is the first step. And I'm nowhere close to enlightenment, man. Like, I'm not claiming to be in any way, shape, or form. I'm nowhere even close to it. But I feel like that is step 1 out of probably an infinite millions, trillions steps, right? I think that that's step 1, is trying to gain an understanding of how small you are in comparison to everything in existence. I don't get that vibe from her at all. That's dangerous.
Eckhart Tolle, Deepak Chopra, and Anthony Robbins. It also made it look like my team and I are not as much about helping people as we are all about numbers and beating the competition. Not true at all.
That's not,
Having been an athlete,
no.
I
Let me
love
stop
healthy
you there.
competition.
She talked about competition. She was genuinely angry about competition. She was accusing the people that work under her for not doing enough to beat the competition. So, bullshit.
But competition is not what we are doing this for. Also, there are realities to what I do. My manager, who is very sweet, by the way, has a job. That job is to focus on the growth and well being of my career, especially the more business sided aspect of what I do, so that I can focus on creating content to help people. Most of my content is free, but I can't produce the content to help people.
Your content that's free exists to sell your books. So don't give me that whole, oh, well, I'm just giving away all this knowledge. No. Honey, you are creating this content and putting it out for free on YouTube as a means to promote the products that you actually do sell and ask for money for. So don't give me this whole I'm just an innocent, my message is too important. No.
Without money to do it. But I never want you to forget that the reason I got into this line of work in the first place, and the reason I'm still in it today, is to help people who are suffering. I am for the spiritual field, while at the same time, I recognize the flaws and dangers inherent within it. And I have deep respect for many of my colleagues, even if at times our opinions differ. As I said earlier, documentaries require selecting some things and rejecting other things. I mean, a lot of other things. But that process can sometimes result in inaccurate representations, like the video of my retreat in which two women are helping each other. I don't actually offer a 2-week retreat for healing. The documentary gives the impression that these women are two people attending a healing retreat of mine and are doing the completion process together.
Now, that was a really intense scene because basically, and I was really fascinated by that. I was really fascinated by what I was looking at. Because there was one woman that was just kind of being there and being supportive, while this other woman was talking about the abuse that she endured from her mother. And she was screaming. She was screaming and saying, I just want to stab her in the chest, and the other person is just sitting there going, yeah, let it out. And it was really weird because I really felt like that person was feeling superior to the person that was crying and letting go of all those feelings and expressing those feelings as strongly as she was. I could sense that, and not in like an ESP kind of way or anything. I'm just saying I sensed the vibe that she felt somewhat superior over that person and using empathy to feel superior. And I think that that's pretty dangerous. Because I don't think that it's necessary to relive this trauma. To face it, fine. But, I'm sitting here and I'm watching this person like scream and yell, and to me, that is the opposite of what I found to be productive. Because again, there's the R in Glare, man, the first R, which is rationality, right? For me, acting out in that manner and screaming and crying like that and carrying on and making a big spectacle, to me, it does nothing but just exercise. And I don't mean in the way, when I say exercise your demons, I mean exercise them and making them stronger. You're allowing them to take over your sense of rationality. I truly believe this. I don't see how that's productive in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying to hold back your tears, if you happen to be sitting at home, or you're having a genuine conversation with somebody, But to scream and carry on like that and talk about stabbing your mother in the chest, that's not productive. I don't see how that's in any way, shape, or form therapeutic or productive.
It's not true. They are actually two trainees at my completion process training that are practicing on each other so they can learn how to do it on clients. They are not, in fact, two retreat attendees attending a retreat to heal. I would never let people coming to a retreat to get help facilitate completion process on each other. Plus, we always have licensed therapists on hand to help. I want to explain something that was not clear in this first episode. The title of the episode is Lost Toys, because at one point I refer to my followers as well as myself as Lost Toys. This is in reference to the island of misfit toys in the old movie Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah, Cherry lost her toys too. Don't feel bad.
In the film, the misfit or lost toys are sentient toys who all have some strange quirk about them, and because of these quirks, these toys feel there is no human child who could possibly want to play with them. So King Moonracer brings them to stay on an island until suitable owners can be found. When I first started holding these events around the world and became familiar with my audience, many of them reminded me of these characters from this movie, and I myself relate to these misfit toys as well. Most of the documentary focused on my work with men and women who feel suicidal. And of course, that's part of what I do, but it's only part of it. From childhood trauma to relationship issues to problems at work.
Now, it's very interesting because at one point, she, at the beginning of the whole thing, at the beginning of the documentary, she's holding this seminar, this workshop, and she invites people on the stage, and then this woman is basically just saying just normal, basic everyday problems, you know what I mean, things that most of us go through, and it's fine, it's, and her response is, what are you doing here? And she takes it like, well, I like your books and stuff, and you're holding a seminar. She's like, no, what are you doing here on this earth? Like questioning what that person's worth is, like, to me, I feel like that's a form of breaking them down and breaking down every single person in her audience, basically saying, hold on a second, let me deal with something here. Spivey, you're getting on everybody in my chat's nerves. I can ignore you, but the rest of my chat is getting annoyed with you. This is unacceptable and just stupid. We may not agree, but YouTube creators have the right to say what they want on their channels. Useless, or unless they're threatening other creators, let them be. Unnecessary drama. Why are you here? Why are you here? And I mean in the chat, not on this earth. You have a right to be on this earth. You have a right to be in my chat. As a matter of fact, that's fine, but if you find it so unacceptable and it's so stupid, why are you watching it? Just like go. You know what I mean? Like, it's just go. I mean, I'm sorry that it's making you so upset. But it's funny when you say that every person has a right to say what they want on their channel, as long as they're not threatening anybody. I'm not stopping her from saying anything at all. I'm not stopping her from saying a word. I'm simply reviewing her, which is something that I've been doing on this channel. I'm just moving away from one particular area of YouTube onto another. So either you like it or you don't. And it's obviously not for you. And I'm sorry that you're not enjoying it. But you're trying to ruin it for everyone else in my chat who's trying to enjoy it. And that is the reason why I find you to be disruptive. But, like I said, either enjoy it enjoy hating it, you know, or leave. But as long as you just shut the fuck up, how's that? So, yeah.
Health issues to dysfunctional family systems to subconscious patterns, I offer help regarding anything that causes pain and problems in a person's life, and I take it all very seriously. It's the ultimate responsibility. And by the way, I don't condone suicide, full stop. Statements made by anyone out of context, sound bites that are given, that give a different impression, are just wrong and don't represent what I teach and how I feel.
Well,
At the
what
very
she
end of
does,
the episode,
she may not condone suicide. The question is, the question is whether or not she is careless with the way that she handles her position of power over the people who listen to her and follow her. That's where it's dangerous. The question is whether or not the way that she words things are dangerous. Because on one hand, she is saying, listen, if you're not getting what I'm saying, then it's not for you. If you're not following, you're not ready to heal. If you're not taking in everything that I'm saying, right? So therefore, now if I'm a follower of hers, and I trust that she is going to give me answers that are going to help me deal with my trauma and whatever problems I have, and including whether or not I feel significant enough to exist on this planet, um, she should take that into consideration and behave more responsibly in the way that she chooses her words. Because you take somebody who she doesn't know from Adam, and those people are questioning their even right to exist. They're literally questioning their right to even exist. And so for her to for her to say things like, what are you doing here? Put up or shut up. Basically, like, it comes down to either you're going to kill yourself or you're going to push forward. You know what I mean? And then she excuses that and justifies it with, hey, I'm not going to sugarcoat shit. I'm just going to tell you how it is. But that's not, you know, I'm of the opinion you have to be more careful. Now, what happens if somebody in my chat starts talking about how they feel like they feel like they're having suicidal thoughts or whatnot? One of my mods will drop the suicide prevention hotline. Call somebody qualified to help you through that. I don't claim to be qualified to help you through that. She does, but I don't claim to be qualified to help somebody through that. And some people in the past have found that to be cold. But how is it cold if I'm being that honest where I'm saying, listen, sorry you're feeling that way, but this isn't the place for you to get help with that. You know what I mean? I'm just a YouTuber. I'm just an entertainer. I'm here to talk about things and give my opinions on things. I'm not a licensed therapist. I've had my own issues with suicide in the past, and I found a way for me to manage them. I'm not trying to push that on anybody else. So it's up to me to manage these things. So I try to set that example, because if you're gonna look to me for help, that's all the help that I can offer you, is how I handle my own shit. You know what I mean? That's the best thing that I can do, is give the example of how I handle my shit. And if you feel like it helps you, cool. Then great, I helped you. I'm happy that I was able to help. But I'm not up here claiming to have the answers for you. I'm not doing that. And I'm not going to be up here telling you, hey, put up or shut up. You know what I mean? If you're sitting here and you're feeling depressed or whatnot, and you're feeling insignificant in the world, I'm not going to sit here and go, well, then what are you even doing here? To like play some bullshit reverse psychology. That's a dangerous game you're playing with people's emotions and their mental health. It's a dangerous game. So I don't know what to tell you. Don't sit here and play victim and like you're like this misunderstood martyr when you're not. You're being held accountable for your words, just like I am subject to being held accountable for any of my words. So you don't have the right to sit up here and be all defensive and whiny about how you were portrayed in a documentary that you agreed to be a part of and be the subject of, and it's released because you're not the filmmaker. You don't get to control that. And again, it comes off this right here, to me, her feeling the need to address this and make this video to explain herself, to me, is it's an example of her need to control. She had no control over how she was going to be depicted, other than how she presented herself, other than the words that came out of her mouth that were captured on video and then released, edited and then released. She had control over that. But this is somebody whose actions are telling me, well, okay, I stand by everything that I say as I'm saying it. It's my way or the highway type attitude. And then when she actually sees herself doing this, she's like, wait a minute, that's not me. That's not what I did. But you did. Like, you just don't like what you saw. You don't like the person you saw. And that's you. I'm sorry, but that's you, Teal.
I made what was supposed to be a cute joke about my rather humorous goal of beating the Pope at spiritual influence because of a most spiritually influential list that comes out each year. But this was edited to make it appear like a very serious, intentional competition that I have with him. It made it seem like I am out to win at any cost, and instead of funny, unfortunately, it came across like I am aggressive, and it came across like megalomania.
And yeah, that's exactly how it came across. There's a good reason why it came across that way, because you were captured on video behaving that way. So, now, something interesting about what she's saying here, as far as the Pope goes, right? Let's talk about the Pope. That's somebody I could see her being in competition with someone like the Pope or someone like Joel Osteen, you know, um, because these people are obviously uh concerned with material possessions, concerned with material success. Okay. Now, you might look at her and she kind of dresses down and she lives, it looks like a very natural type setting, the way that she lives, and she seems modest. But I'm sorry, but I don't buy that at all, because she is very, very concerned. She calls this her career. Okay. She calls this her career. She calls being the one person who has all of the answers and peddling that shit as her career. So
I guess I need to work on how I convey my sense of humor. And I know you're all wondering about that hot tub scene where I got all bothered by the prospect of Juliana coming to live with Blake. Unlike how it appeared, this was not a Juliana is sweet and open to Teal, but Teal is cold and rejecting of Juliana thing. I was not against Juliana being in a relationship with Blake. Like I'm some jealous ex girlfriend.
did you see
In
that?
reality, at the point
Hold
when
on.
that hot tub
Did you
scene
see
was
that?
shot, ex girlfriend. In reality, at the point of Juliana thing, I was not against
Look at her
Juliana being in a
face.
relationship with Blake. Like I'm some
Right there.
jealous ex girlfriend. Juliana being in a relationship with Blake. Like I'm some
Just,
jealous
just the
ex-girlfriend.
idea of him being, she couldn't even hide it there. She couldn't even hide it right there. The mention out loud of Blake being in a relationship with Juliana made her frustrated.
In reality, at the point when that hot tub scene was shot, Blake and I were actually having a conversation about the potential problems of him being about to bring Juliana into our highly intense and complex world, as well as the idea of them getting their own apartment and having their own space.
No. Okay. Now, if everything that happened didn't happen, I might buy that bullshit. But I don't. Okay? Because what happened was you had this guy by your side at your beck and call, dyeing your hair. You had a you had a boyfriend that you put in a place that said, "Hey, I'm not going to be with you in a relationship anymore unless it's convenient for me," meaning I'm going to see whoever I want and I'm going to engage in whatever I want, and you're going to have to watch it. She even had a kid with somebody. You know what I mean? Like, so she has a kid and she's been married 5 times. I don't know which of the husbands, I don't know any of that shit, but she's been married 5 times and 15 different relationships. And this is her account. 15 different relationships. Since now, if you're so enlightened, why can't you find one dude and treat him right? You know what I mean? And have, you know what I mean? And have so we're talking about somebody who has videos titled things like "The Truth About Men" and "The Truth About Women," in all fairness, and she has tons of videos on relationships, right? But how can somebody who's had 15 relationships while forcing the guy and practically holding him emotionally and mentally hostage to sit there and watch you go through 15 different relationships at your side, and you want to talk about relationships and give relationship advice when you did it 15 times and it didn't work? I haven't even had 15 relationships in my life. I've never had 15 serious relationships in my life. And I'm in my 40s. So yeah, I how does this person think that she is qualified to even give relationship advice?
I had doubts about Juliana's compatibility to the realities of the
No, that's what you use to justify you treating her like an outsider right from the start and intimidating her. Basically, what this woman did was she intimidated this poor girl. I guess she's from Germany or something like that, right? But she intimidates this girl from the start. She intimidates Blake before the girl even comes out, right? And she intimidates him, basically sending the message like she's going to have a hard time, you know, kind of talking like a mafia person. You know what I mean? Like, she's not outright saying, "I'm going to make this girl's life hell when she gets here." This is a rigorous lifestyle, meaning that I will target somebody and I will put them through the ringer. I will haze them. She won't outright say that, but she will say, "This is going to be tough. Just letting you know from the start, just ahead of time. So you can't say that I didn't warn you about it." That's her little disclaimer. That's her defense, her way of justifying treating this girl like shit from the moment that she walks into the door. Travels all the way across the world to be with this dude, and he's totally in love with her. You know, he's totally in love with her. The only difference is she seems to show him the respect that Teal did not.
life we were living, and a bad intuition about Blake just winging it and hoping for the best. The reality of
Look
my
at
life
that,
is
dude.
that I have to protect it and hoping for the best we were living, and a bad
What?
intuition
Look at that.
about Blake just winging it and hoping for the best.
She can't hide her anger. Blind intuition. Blake just winging it. Like, she has no respect for this guy. Like, everything that he does and says is something that she can criticize and bring down. And she's sitting here. The point of this video is to convince us that she's not like that. That's her. This is how much she's lacking self-awareness.
The reality of my life is that I have to protect myself from a person who I don't know being immediately thrust into living in my world. I'm a public
Ah,
figure, like or not.
she just contradicted herself, because she started off saying, well, what I was doing was expressing to Blake how difficult it could be for her when she gets here, if she's ready for this lifestyle. But now, once she got pissed off, she just expressed, without even realizing the bullshit that she spewed out not even 2 minutes prior, right? She spews out and she blurts out the truth and makes it about her. This person's going to come into my world. This person is going to come into my world and make things more difficult for me. The truth comes out.
So I have to be guarded.
I have to
more
be
careful.
guarded.
Well, there it is. Guess what? I haven't seen any of these episodes, so I will be watching them in real time alongside all of you. Let's hope the anticipation doesn't kill me. Have a good week. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button.
Shut up.
Subscribe to my
Yeah, folks. So you're getting an idea. Let me give another example here. I'm going to find another. And she has 1.31 million subscribers. Let's watch her tutorial for life, shall we? All right, let's watch her tutorial for life. This is what this is titled, her tutorial for life. I mean, if that isn't arrogant as it is, you know? Oh, wait, my fault.
Welcome to your physical life.
I've been here. I've been here.
Even though you don't remember it, before you came here, you had specific intentions for what you wanted to experience in this life. Some of you wanted to taste of true love. Some of you to feel true freedom. Some of you wanted a simple life, or else the little things that matter. You chose the perfect family and the perfect initial experience for this intention you set for this life. You knew all the potentials that would come from choosing those parents, that neighborhood, that culture, that place and that time. When you saw that perfect potential, you took it. You took it because you knew it would be the exact conditions necessary.
Now, again, this is entitled Tutorial for Life, but she's not telling you anything other than she's basically saying, this is who you are. I'm telling you who you are. You were alive before you came to this earth with a particular intention. It could be this, could be that, blah, blah, blah. But so far, this is a 1 minute into a 4-minute video, and I'm not hearing any tutorial at all.
For your own personal expansion. And there is no difference between your personal expansion and the universe's expansion. When you expand, the universe expands. When you learn, the universe learns.
I agree with that.
Every perspective that is held by any being is adding to the expansion of source consciousness. It doesn't matter whether that perspective is coming from a bird, a dog, a plant, a neighbor, a friend, an enemy. It is all adding to this universal picture, which is source trying to see itself.
What?
Universal consciousness, which your soul is a part of, designed this reality as a kind of computer program. This program adheres to certain rules like gravity, the speed of light, and sound,
Okay. Now she's just ripping off the Matrix.
The ultimate rule of this universe is called the law of mirroring. This rule means that life on Earth is experienced as a kind of mirror hologram, where everything that is within you reflects in your external life. This means you can manifest anything you like, whether it's a car, money, a lover, a state of health,
Oh, now it's the
a state
secret.
of peace, by first experiencing it in your internal world, in your thoughts and your emotions. This knowledge about the way that the universe really works is the key to living.
How come you didn't manifest that documentary to come out the way you wanted it to?
In the life that you've always wanted. The truth is, you're not powerless. If you're afraid of someone leaving you, find the aspect within you that leaves people. If you're afraid of being manipulated by other people, find the part of you that manipulates other people. If you're afraid of terrorism, find the terrorist in you. Your compassionate attention will allow a transformation to take place, the very transformation that we have been waiting for centuries. This will be an end to loss. This will be an end to manipulation. This will be an end to terrorism.
What?
This will be the end to suffering on this earth. This will be the time that you have accepted the parts of you that you have denied for years.
See, what's funny is all that's good and dandy, bro. You know what I mean? All of that's good and dandy. I actually got no problem with anything that she's saying here. The problem is that she uses it to gain for herself. She uses it to gain some sort of relevance because she has crazy insecurity issues herself. Like, and I don't mean crazy in the dismissive sense. She has wild insecurity issues is what I mean. And she'll use this information, which this is why I think that she's dangerous, because I actually agree with a lot of the things that she's saying here. But it's also doesn't make her the one to do it just because she made a flashy video with some cool music. You know what I'm saying? Like any of us, just like somebody said here in the chat, you know, any of us could be saying this. If you ponder life enough, you know what I'm saying? Like you're going to come up with your own version of this. You do enough acid, I promise you, that's going to happen. I guarantee it.
I hope that this message was able to remind you of what you already knew, but simply have forgotten.
No, nobody forgot.
Now that you have the instructions for this life, you can tell other people.
What instructions?
And together, you can enjoy the ride.
But you didn't give any instructions, though. Where were the instructions? I heard a bunch of observations. I heard a bunch of observations, but hold on. All right, so hold on a second. Yeah, I'm not going to play a 22-minute one and review that. No. Let's listen to Dr. Grande. Dr. Grande. Let's see what he has to say about her. All right. So this is Dr. Grande. Dr. Grande.
Scientifically informed insider look at mental health topics. If you find this video to be interesting or helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel.
Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question asks if I can provide my thoughts on Teal Swan. She is a self-proclaimed spiritual catalyst, as well as a writer, public speaker, and teacher. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. Now, Teal Swan was born Mary Teal Bosworth in 1984 in New Mexico, although she grew up in Utah. It's my understanding that she now lives in Costa Rica. When she was young, she experienced bullying and trauma. She's made some extraordinary claims about extreme harm that happened to her when she was young, including those perpetrated by members of a cult. She claims her memories were repressed, but later unlocked by a therapist. She successfully completed high school and would later move on to her career as a spiritual leader. She claims to be special in many ways. She claims to have extrasensory perception. She can see into the future, perceive beings in spiritual realms, travel out of her body, and read people's minds. She says she is not limited to this dimension or time, space, reality. So when talking about reality, not limited by is different than disconnected from. She says that she's half human and half alien. She's also said that she is a reincarnation of an Indian guru. She claims that she is a universal mirror, an embodiment of a three-dimensional reflector tool. If you step in front of her, evidently, you can see the truth. She claims her intelligence was tested twice when she was younger. Both scores were over 170 points. So she's claiming to have an IQ above 170. Among the popular empirically validated instruments for measuring intelligence, the highest maximum score on any of those would be 160, which is 4 standard deviations above the mean. To obtain a score of 170, the individual giving the IQ test would have to be qualified to make that projection, and those projections are highly unreliable. But let's just say her IQ was over 170. This would make Teal Swan one of the most intelligent people
that's
in the
interesting
world.
to me.
She claims to be able to help people who are at risk of self-harm, those who are angry, and those who have repressed memories. She made a controversial statement suggesting that there was nothing wrong with ending one's life. She referred to suicide as a reset button, saying that one can't say that it's wrong without saying death is wrong. Now, as I understand it, that video with those statements has been removed. It was on her YouTube channel. Now, her YouTube channel has over 700,000 subscribers, and it's been viewed
way more than that now,
almost 90 million times. I looked briefly at a few of her successful videos. We see videos like how to activate a third eye, how to increase one's frequency and vibration, and videos about energy healing. She does not have any formal education in mental health counseling.
Nope.
When she was challenged about her educational level, she said that her question to anybody would be, if you went back in time and sat at the foot of Albert Einstein, would you ask him for his credentials? She says that people who know him understand that he was given a PhD because he didn't need to study. So this is
comparing yourself to Einstein. Good.
is wrong on many levels. Einstein was awarded honorary degrees, but he also earned real degrees. It's interesting that she's comparing herself to Albert Einstein.
Very interesting.
When asked specifically about a psychology
This is
degree,
2 years old.
she said that many people who take her courses have degrees, even though she does not. So under this logic, if there was a
this video is over 2 years old. It was made in May of 2020.
chef teaching a room full of astronauts about maintaining a healthy diet, when the training was over, he should be able to fly the space shuttle. I think, too, that Teal Swan misunderstands a lot of the terms that she uses in her writings and in her videos. For example, she talks about the role of the subconscious mind, but she seems to be confusing it with the autonomic nervous system, suggesting that the subconscious mind controls respiration and digestion. I find this to be a pretty common mistake that people in this New Age crowd make. They're looking at a construct from the world of mental health, like the subconscious mind, and confusing it with a construct that's physiological in origin. The subconscious and the autonomic nervous system are two completely separate things. The subconscious mind is a place that contains information that somebody could recall if they wanted to. For example, if somebody was asked to recall the name of their 4th grade teacher, most people could probably have a chance of doing that. It resides in the subconscious mind. They're not thinking about it before the question, but when the question is asked, they can do it. This is a lot different than a system that controls things like heart rate and breathing. Now, she has a number of theories about mental health treatment. She developed her own mental health treatment called the completion process. that
Yeah.
ostensibly helps people recover.
Let me address Margot's comment here. I have 2 degrees and I don't want to take any of her courses, nor would I take a piece of advice from her ever. So there goes her education theory. Um, I'm glad that you mentioned that and that you said that, because you know, think about the people that do subscribe to her. And I don't mean literally subscribe on YouTube. I mean people who subscribe to her teachings and whatever, you know, and I use that loosely. But the people that subscribe to what she says and her ideas and things of that nature, I'm of the opinion that those people collectively, every person that I saw had some deep rooted insecurity issues. Very, very codependent. I think the one thing that everyone who listens to her and takes what she says to heart, the one thing that they all seem to have in common is a very, very strong sense of codependency. And I'm of the opinion that independence, emotional independence, for me anyway, emotional independence is vital to keeping my suicidal thoughts at bay, or managing my depression or anxiety. I find that is the most productive manner is taking accountability and becoming teaching myself through certain exercises to be more emotionally independent. Now, I don't think that's not to say that I think that it's wrong to be involved with somebody or to depend on somebody emotionally to some degree, to trust someone with your emotions. That's, I mean, if God is love, right? Just hear me out. If God is love, right? What do we do with God? We have faith in God, right? So with love, I'm of the opinion that you have to be able to have faith. Once you put your feelings out there for somebody, I mean, your heart might get broken. You know, that's the gesture behind giving your heart to somebody, is saying, here, you know, this is my emotional well-being and I'm giving it to you to a certain degree, while still maintaining the ability of having enough self-respect to go, hey, wait a minute, no, you don't get to do that to me. I am in control of my emotions. But to give yourself to somebody, to give your heart to somebody, that meaning that you're going to love them unconditionally, that is an act of faith, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if they're going to meet somebody else and act on feelings. You don't know if they're going to, once they get to a certain point in a relationship, comfortable with you to where they start to be abusive to a certain degree. You have no idea, honestly. You just you assess as best as you can, you guard yourself for a while, and then you decide, you take a leap of faith and give that person your heart. If you don't do that, your relationship, in my personal opinion, is doomed from the beginning. Now, I have not been in a relationship since I adapted this understanding. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. But in theory, that's what I believe makes a functional relationship work. Is that gesture being exchanged by two people, and each person having gratitude that that gesture was made, that they are being trusted with that person's heart. And so expressing genuine gratitude for that kind of trust through their behavior and through the way that they treat that person is, in my personal opinion, the secret to a healthy relationship. In theory, I've never had a successful relationship, so I honestly I couldn't tell you. but I haven't had 15 unsuccessful ones, just so you know.
Trauma. Somebody can go to one of her trainings and become a certified practitioner in this method. I find this interesting. Other people's education does not matter to Teal Swan, but a certificate from her does matter. That
Right.
somehow is valid.
Right.
She also said that a person cannot suffer new trauma after the age of 8. When somebody thinks they're traumatized after this age, it's just a reflection of a prior wound. So here she's just flat out wrong, as she is pretty much.
Blissful Elixir, my favorite Debbie Downer in the chat. How are you? Unconditionally in reality becomes a problem. Oh my God. I'm not even going to touch it. Just, you know, womp, 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 womp.
Pretty much most of the time, this is just made up nonsense. There is extremely strong evidence supporting that somebody can be traumatized after the age of 8. A number of traumas actually occur after the age of 8. Teal Swan holds herself out as a revolutionary. She said, the reason I'm calling myself a revolutionary.
So you're telling me, yeah. So you're telling me that that a person who was on active duty during a war can't be traumatized. You're telling me that a woman who was in an abusive relationship can't be traumatized. You're telling me that a woman who was SA'd can't be traumatized if she's beyond 8 years old. Really, Teal? Come on, man.
Is because I don't fit in with the methodologies of today. I'm a game changer. One of those methodologies that she doesn't fit in with would be the scientific method. She has also compared herself to Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King Jr., and Gandhi.
Wow.
She says that she is superior to all mental health professionals. The reason these mental health professionals call her a con artist and a fraud is because of her incredible level of knowledge that invalidates all of their education and experience. When they look upon her greatness, they realize that their life is not valid. So Teal Swan is so great that in looking at her work, mental health professionals realize that they have thrown their lives away. Although she has contempt for mental health professionals, she believes that she could become a brilliant counselor or psychologist.
Like, bro, if you went and you actually went to school and studied and actually learned something and then got a degree, you threw your life away. Everybody should just pretend to be mental health professionals, just label themselves mental health professionals and above all other mental health professionals. Otherwise, you're throwing your life away.
She says that she could outsmart people's egos and help them to see things about themselves that they are not totally aware of. So in her mind, being a good counselor means having.
I think everybody can do that to a certain degree, but that's not the perspective you approach that with. You know, you don't do that. Of course, you know, I mean, that's the difference between self-awareness and not being self-aware is somebody else can be like, dude, you don't see what you're doing here. You know what I mean? Like, of course, anybody can do that, you know, like
having an amazing ability to manipulate people. So this is where we see much of the problem with Teal Swan. Now, she's been accused of being a cult leader. She says that she's aware that the situation that she's in could easily lead to a cult, but her ethics prevent that from happening. No. Well, that's reassuring. These are the ethics that she undoubtedly made up herself because we know she didn't learn them anywhere else. So what's her mission? What's her goal with this whole public speaking, all these courses, putting out videos, putting out books? Well, she says her goal is, among other things, wealth. She wants to buy countries and build new societies. I feel like buying.
That is crazy, bro. That's super. I mean, how, if you don't see that as delusions of grandeur, everybody who buys one of her books and shows up to one of her seminars and blows a bunch of sunshine up her ass, you people are enabling a very, very sick person. So here she is saying, okay, well, yeah, I mean, obviously the answer to 99 out of 100 questions is money. But what she's also seeking is clearly power. Anybody in history who has openly sought power turned out to be a dictator or a villain of some sort. They were not revered in history as good people, as leaders that are to be admired. People in history consistently throughout history who have openly sought power have turned out to be bad people, dangerous, bad people.
A planet would be more appropriate for her. After all, she is half alien. She considers her followers part of her army, ready to experience the collective awakening, which probably occurs after the collective giving her all their money. That's usually how cults work.
Right.
The question with somebody like
Exactly.
Teal Swan always comes down to intention. Is she trying to fool people, or does she really believe everything that she says? Well, there's no way for me to know what's going on specifically with Teal Swan, but what could be going on in a situation like this? There are many possibilities. She could really believe all the things that she says. So essentially, she spreads misinformation because she is misinformed. There could be some sort of disconnect from reality, anywhere from
Clearly
mild perceptual disturbances all the way up to delusional thinking. There could be extreme personality traits like narcissism. Now, many people have actually suggested that Teal Swan is narcissistic. She has actually addressed this characterization. She says, I'm an empath. It's impossible to be an empath and a narcissist at the same time.
impossible. Totally impossible. And what's really funny, and I've made this observation on this channel before, people who claim to be empaths, everybody that I've ever met or spoken to that claims to be an empath turns out to be the opposite of an empath. People who proclaim themselves as empaths, first of all, like that right there is a reflection of what you really are. Because if you are claiming to be an empath, that means that you are wanting some sort of positive recognition for that. So when you claim to be an empath and you're out loud about it, you always have this weird preachy attitude. I've always noticed this. People who are like, I'm an empath and blah, blah, blah. And I'm, you're this and you're that and you're this and you're that. Right? I mean, it always seems to happen. So whenever I hear somebody claim to be an empath and label themselves an empath, now I am somebody who makes an effort to be empathetic, I am no means an empath. I have to make a conscious effort to be more empathetic than I am. Okay. There are times where I feel empathy, like basic things, when there's a child that goes missing or a parent that has a child that goes missing, I automatically feel empathetic for that person. Obviously. I mean, it's, families of murder victims, I always feel empathetic towards them, but that's just any decent person. I make a conscious effort to be more empathetic towards, and I have to make a conscious effort because I'm not naturally that empathetic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just not. So, somebody who is in my chat, it's just like there was a time where this blissful elixir would have gotten on my last nerve very, very quickly, and I would have booted him out of my chat, right? But I'm making a conscious effort to find the positive in the negative comments and find humor in it. And doing so, that person in my chat is finding the humor in it too, that it seems so, and we're cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to make a joke out of it and I'm going to make it funny and I'm going to, as best as I can. And I'm going to try to be empathetic towards that person to a certain degree without being a dick, and I can very easily be a dick. And, I all I can do is try not to be as best as I can. That's all I can do is try not to be, but at least I'm aware of the fact that I'm a dick. I am capable and likely to engage in dickish behavior. So I try to control that to a certain degree because I want to be a person who's pleasant to be around. I want people to enjoy my channel and enjoy my content, and I don't want to have it at someone else's expense all the time.
Not only is this untrue, one could argue that she's really not demonstrating empathy, but rather simply manipulating people. Now, narcissism has a few different characteristics. Some may align with some of her behaviors. Let's take a look at a few that could align. Manipulation, as I mentioned, she's giving mental health advice to people when she has no idea what she's doing. And she says she's a master at mental
That's
chess,
dangerous.
playing mind games with people. Then we see potentially superficial charm.
Like, and that's just basic common sense 101, folks. How many times, I mean, for those of you who have been watching my channel for the past 2, 3, 4 years, those of you who have been watching my channel all this time, whenever we're talking about a case, I'm like, and somebody starts going, you know what? That's a narcissist. I'm like, are you a mental health professional? You know what I mean? Like, I'll say people are exuding narcissistic traits, that of someone who could be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. There's consistent symptoms there. You know, I'll say that, but I'm like, I'm not a mental health professional. I'll always give that disclaimer. I'm not a mental health professional. So I'm not going to be engage in an irresponsible manner and start telling you exactly what's wrong with this person and what they need to do to fix things, because I'm not qualified to do that. I'm simply not. And nobody in this chat is. And if I see somebody in my chat diagnosing somebody with something, I'm going to go, hey, like, are you a mental health professional? No? Okay, then shut the fuck up.
She makes a good initial impression, but after listening to her for a minute, she really makes no sense. I really find it a
Right.
struggle to listen to her talk, right? So if it gets past 2 or 3 seconds, the narrative already becomes kind of meaningless, directionless,
Right.
and it's just a struggle to pay attention to her. We see some behavior that aligns with overconfidence. She is very sure of herself, whether she's saying something true or false.
And it's
We
driven
see
by
this idea
anger.
of believing oneself to be special or unique.
And it's driven by anger. You can see the anger when you watch that documentary, folks. When you watch that, you can tell that anger is driving her when she gets combative with somebody, because she automatically thinks that they're being combative with her because they asked her a simple, challenging question. Who do you look up to? Do you look up to anybody besides yourself? Because that person was very open in expressing, I have trouble finding someone credible who thinks of themselves on such a high level and such a high regard. When the people that I admire don't have anybody that they admire, I have a hard time relating to them. That's all that dude was saying. Now, he was too intimidated to express it in those words, but he kind of did. It was clear enough to where I was like, dude, I got you. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I get where you're coming from. But she got extremely offended right away. Like, how dare you challenge me in front of the entire group, in front of the entire retreat?
This one would align with many of the things that she has said and fantasies of incredible power or success. She wants to become so wealthy she can buy entire countries. Even most people with extreme fantasies don't believe they will ever be able to buy countries.
The
right? So that's
way that,
out of the realm.
The only way that she would feasibly believe that she would ever be capable of purchasing a country, an entire country, purchasing, that means owning a country. Nobody owns a country. First of all, there's nobody that owns countries. You know what I'm saying? They're governed. They're governed. Somebody might be king, you know, and that's even just a dated concept these days. Around the majority of the world, you know, hierarchy is a dated concept, right? So for her to have the audacity to think that she can actually purchase an entire nation would indicate that she is going to be worshipped. She believes that she will be worshipped, thought of as a god. Okay? That's the only way. For me to think that I would ever get to a point to where I can purchase a country and reinvent society, that's Jesus Christ type shit. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of level this person believes that they're at.
of thinking, even for people that have grandiose plans. No matter what the reason is for her behavior, Teal Swan promotes a dangerous ideology. She essentially argues that experience, training, competency, and science don't amount
So
to.
the information that I read on her, she was diagnosed with literally every personality disorder at one point. So narcissistic personality disorder being one of those, I would assume. So yeah, she's been diagnosed. Based on that, she's been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. So I don't mind saying it. And her behavior solidifies this. Her behavior absolutely and totally reinforces this theory or that diagnosis.
To anything. In the world of Teal Swan, the only thing that matters is that she declared herself as knowing everything. People should listen to her simply because she told them to. This runs against logic, science, and common sense. Now, I know whenever I talk about topics like controversial, spiritual, catalyst, or whatever it is that she said she was, there will be a variety of opinions. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.
Now, guys, I'm going to be there's a lot more to cover about her. I'm going to be going over and reviewing a lot of her videos moving forward, guys. But not just her. I'm going to be looking into, I mean, she's not the only YouTube creator who has this more or less view of herself. So I'm going to go over that as something that I've always kind of done. I mean, to me, that's what I'm looking at right there and listening to is basically Critical K with 1 million followers. That's basically who I'm looking at right there and listening to. Not Dr. Grande. That's somebody who is a mental health professional, and he is actually just trying to spread information and trying to educate people. He even gives the disclaimer, hey, this is not a diagnosis. I'm not diagnosing anybody with anything. I'm just giving you an opinion based on what I see. There's no way to actually realistically diagnose somebody unless you sit down with them and talk to them and treat them. There's no way. So, yeah. But guys, I had an excellent time with you tonight. Thanks for the compliments on the new setup. I appreciate it. And we're going to continue down this path, folks. We're going to continue talking about these types of people who have this dangerous type of following. Because it's not that I'm worried about, I want to be very clear. It's not that I'm worried about her having that type of following. The fact is the things that she is saying tend to be dangerous. I'm worried about the one person that it may affect. I'm worried about the one person that her teachings may affect in a negative manner. We're going to get into some of that too, because people have blamed, there are parents out there that blame her for things that have happened to their children. And there are certain situations, people in the in that documentary that point out certain things and their experience. But there's somehow or another, I'm going to see if I could get my the Robin to my Batman, or more like the Alfred, that, well, not even, more like the Oracle to my Batman. If you guys follow comic books, Oracle would be Cherry. She collects information. She can find things for me that I cannot find. And there is an actual, I want you guys to please, if you have Hulu, educate yourselves on this documentary series. It's called The Deep End. It's on Hulu. It's 4 episodes. You can binge it in 4 hours. And if not, just watch the next one. And if you watch the first one, if you can, watch the next 2, the first 2 back to back, if you haven't watched the first one. It would actually help you guys out to understand the stuff that I'm going over here a lot better. So yes, I mean, a lot of you are going to find her annoying. I get that. And pretty boring too. There's certain things I mean, I've been listening to some of her videos on YouTube, and it's sometimes they're hard to sit through because I'm just like, oh God, I see right through you. This is just dribble. You are full of shit. Uh, so, um, but the documentary is actually very entertaining and it's very insightful. And she does not like the way that she was portrayed because it's bad for business. It boils down to that. It's bad for business. It makes people go, wait a minute, I see her for who she is. And she doesn't like that. And that's what I'm doing here, basically. But I just find certain things on YouTube absolutely fascinating. And that's the reason why I'm reviewing it. But again, I don't find her to be a global threat. I don't think that the things that she believes are going to happen for her are going to happen. There's nothing about that, about what she believes about herself that I take any inventory with. I just don't believe any of it. I don't buy any of it. I don't subscribe to any of it. So I don't fear any of it. What I fear are the very codependent, emotionally weak people that she targets as a demographic, and something terrible happening to just one of them. So I will do my best to try to explain and only use my own personal experiences in comparison as to why I feel that what I use to manage my own depression and anxiety is very contrary to what she does and tells people to do. And again, I'm not trying to tell anybody else to do these things. I'm saying it works for me, and those things contribute greatly to the reasons why I think what she's doing is very counterproductive to what she says it's supposed to do. I think it has the opposite effect of what she's trying to do. And I think it's a control tactic, what she does with the people that follow her and pay attention to her and find what she says to be, for lack of a better term, gospel. And so I want people to believe in themselves, take more inventory. None of us are perfect, but at least make a conscious effort to be aware of our imperfections. This is somebody who does not take any inventory of her own imperfections because she believes herself to not be imperfect. So that type of example I find to be very dangerous because all it does is attract people who want to enable this type of thought in her mind. And what it does is I think it minimizes them that much more. The more you invest in a celebrity, or anytime, I mean, that's why that's why it's in the Bible. There's a purpose why certain things are in the Bible. As far as like worshiping idols, she fancies herself to be an idol for the most part. It's very obvious and it's very clear. And, every religion will explain to you why it's dangerous to believe in idols, to worship idols, to idolize anyone. So, the best thing to do is try to set a positive example, in my personal opinion. You know what I mean? And it's in our human nature. Anybody with self-respect, anybody with self-respect is going to go show me an example. Like, I'm not ashamed to say that I could have been a much better parent, right? But I'm aware of the fact now that where I failed as a parent was because I failed to set the example for my kids. I always wanted them to do better than I did. And I always put pressure on them to do better than I did, which would have been easy to do had I set the proper example. Naturally, if they're self-respecting, common sense human beings, even as children, they're going to automatically, instinctively go, that's hypocritical. Coming from you, that's hypocritical. And that's not an easy thing to admit. That's something that I can just easily say now. That's something I can easily say now, but it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work, and it took a lot of self-loathing, and a lot of questioning myself, and all these things to come to this conclusion. A lot of blaming other people, and blaming the world, and then just realizing, dude, if I flunked as a parent, that's on me. My kids didn't ask to come into this world. You know what I mean? They didn't have that option. Arrogantly, their mother and I created them and brought them into this world. Well, one of them anyway. Only one of them is biologically mine, but we arrogantly brought my son into this world without his say in any of it. And I had the responsibility of visualizing my son growing up to be a certain way. And if he doesn't, I couldn't honestly say that I did everything that I could, because had I done everything that I could, then I would have set a better example for him growing up. And I failed to do that. So, these are difficult things that one would have to face. But one does not meet these conclusions by saying that everything that I say is right. I have all the answers, and if you don't follow me and do everything that I'm saying, then you're lost and there's no hope for you. You might as well not even exist. That's arrogance. That's ego. And it's abusive. So, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. I love you very, very much, and we will do this again very soon, my friends.